Greetings, family. Peace and love to you and yours. This is Guru, and thanks for visiting my channel. Well, this family is going to be about a report that was made in August. It was an FBI memo that called, quote, "Black identity extremists," unquote, the new terror threat. So I want you to understand the title, first of all, and what that means. Black identity extremists. The title in and of itself is racist. Anyone with a brain can see that. Black identity extremists. They term that as a new terror threat. Now the term is not something that black people made up. It's a term that European white people made up. So right there, that is an attack towards black Americans. This is so un-American, it's unconstitutional, it is foul and straight up not right. You don't hear them say white identity extremists or Chinese identity extremists or Mexican identity extremists or Indian identity extremists or Islamic identity extremists. They term this black identity extremists, meaning that they are targeting black Americans. That in and of itself is wrong. Our black lawyers, our black legal beagles, black politicians, black professionals, black people in particular should fight against this. This is an all-out attack on black people. How do you term something a black identity extremist? They don't even give a clear indication of what that means or who falls under that category. It's just a term that's used that as a negative term against black people. It is a target against black people. Again, black people, especially our legal people and politicians, should be fighting for against this and take this to the world court. We are in the 21st century, and it is about time that we face this head on and forcefully. We need to fight against this. This is now a time where we cannot stand idly by, dancing in the streets, twerking, and doing all this other crazy antics, not fighting for the cause. This is an attack against black people. They are targeting black people. Black identity extremists is a vague term. They can term a black identity extremist whatever they so choose. That's a problem, a major problem. It is an attack against black people. So the story goes, in August, the FBI's Counterterrorism Division published a report warning law enforcement across the country of a new threat. It called the threat black identity extremism. In reality, there is no black identity extremist movement, at least not one that goes by that name. It appears to be an invented label, Foreign Policy reported. The publication revealed the existence of the Counterterrorism Memo Friday and briefly posted the actual document on its website before removing it. According to the FBI, quote, "It is very likely some black identity extremists are influenced by a mix of anti-authoritarian, Moorish sovereign citizen ideology and black identity extremist ideology." Again, unquote. Again, that is not a term that explains exactly what they're going after. It's such a vague term, and they can, and then they can put that label on anyone they so choose. But I want you to see in this picture, I show you this picture for a reason. When they say about black identity extremism. The only extremism that there is, it's called white terrorism. It's white terrorism against black people. Like what you see in this picture. You always see white people targeting black people. Always. And they somehow, in their media and in their eyes and in their mind, they somehow turn it around to make it look like that it's the black person that's the aggressor. Never mind that you're on the ground and they're on top of you with force. So who has the low IQ here? When you have to have these things pointed out to you, who has the low IQ here? It sure isn't black people, because honestly, black people have been fighting for justice in America ever since we have been here. That is a truth. That is the truth of the matter. And white people have been trying to change the narrative around to what they want it to be. And if you're about truth and reality, and if you believe in God, then you will always speak the truth. And that's what we have here. And that's why we have the term, tell the truth, shame the devil. So I digress. Moving on, it says, the report found it, quote, very likely, unquote, that the police killing of Ferguson, Missouri teenager of Michael Brown and the subsequent decision by a grand jury not to indict the officer responsible for his death spurred an increase in premeditated, retaliatory, lethal violence against law enforcement and will very likely serve as justification for such violence. In other words, what they're saying is, it's the black person's fault. It's the dead black person's fault that there's violence towards law enforcement, that people are attacking law enforcement. Never mind the fact that they just mentioned what I just read to you, that this was spurred for the fact that a grand jury did not indict the officer responsible for Michael Brown's death. So in other words, yes, the people were standing up against injustice. The people were standing up against injustice. What is that hard not to understand? But I digress. It says incidents of alleged police abuse against African Americans. Now, I'm going to stop right there because there's no alleged to it. We have plenty of video footage showing the abuse. There is no alleged to it. This is white supremacy at its worst when you say things of that nature. There is no alleged when we have video footage proving our assertions. There's no alleged to it. But it continues by saying incidents of alleged police abuse against African Americans since then have continued to feed the resurgence in ideologically motivated violent criminal activity within the black identity extremist movement, the report said, referring to Michael Brown's death. Now, if you recall when I first started this video, I told you there was no such movement. And yet they keep talking about it as if there is. This, again, is white supremacy making up things to make people, and especially white people, fear black people. When there's no such thing as a movement as a black identity extremist. They're making this crap up. So they make up these terms and then they expect for you to go along and believe it. Because after all, I'm white and I say so, is what they feel. I'm white and I say so. And that's not reality. That's not how it goes. Again, we must fight this type of ideology with the truth. And again, if you believe in God, you're going to speak the truth and you're going to fight against that. Period, not comma. It continues by saying, running 12 pages, including endnotes and citations, the report included 6 examples of premeditated violence against police officers by black people judged to have been motivated by identity extremism. Let's take a look. It says, quote, in all 6 targeted attacks since 2014, the report said, quote, the FBI assesses it is very likely the black and identity extremist suspects acted in retaliation for perceived past police brutality. Now, that statement is a loaded statement. They're trying to say that black people who go off and do heinous crimes against them, it's caused by black identity extremism. They had to put a label on it so that they could target more and more and more black people. Again, it's shenanigans, it's stuff, it's unconstitutional, it should be against the law. We need legal people to fight against this. So they use examples like Micah Johnson, who killed 5 police officers in a rampage in Dallas. Yes, he was mentally ill. Isn't that what you say about white people? You know, like Stephen Paddock, the white terrorist who just shot up 60 people in Las Vegas. You guys don't even have a white identity extremist program or a policy against them, and you target black people like this. I can't even finish this article. It's so vile and disgusting. This has to end. We must fight against this. This is wrong, it's vicious, it's vile, it's dangerous, and we cannot allow this to happen. Black people across America, across the Caribbean, across Africa, across the world need to hold hands and get it together. We need to fight against white supremacy, or it's going to be our demise. We will perish if you don't wake the F up. It's time to wake up. I'm ending up right off here. Peace out.